You are listening to Overwatch League Network, The Backcap, the podcast with insight on the Overwatch League's path to pro and contenders analysis. Here are your hosts, Emily Drunk and Ren. What is up, guys, and welcome back to Overwatch League Network, the Backcap, the podcast with insight on the Overwatch Path to Pro scene. I am your host, Emily Drunk, and tonight is episode 23. We're going to go around the Tier 2 scene to discuss the latest Path to Pro news. We'll update you on the Overwatch World Cup, as today was basically like roster deadline day. We also have Contender Season 2 having kicked off across the globe, so a ton of stuff going on in regards to that front. But before we get into the news and introduce you to my co-hosts, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is out with us tonight over in our Twitch chat, as well as thank all of our repeat listeners. Of course, as always, I have someone here with me to help break everything down, and, you may recognize this face and this voice from another one of our network podcasts. And if you were here last night, you will know which podcast I'm talking about, because he is my co-host over on Heroes Never Die. That being Ed and R. And Ed, obviously Overwatch League is currently on a bit of a break, given the fact that, we're still a week out of the playoffs, and it's really giving you an opportunity to check out some of the Path to Pro stuff, including contenders. So I just want to get, what's your initial impressions been with Path to Pro?
Hi everyone. So my impression, so I'm watching this now because, like you said, the Overwatch League is, this is the downtime. I'm scouting people for my fantasy team next year. Like, I gotta get those sleepers in, so I've been falling in love with people here and there, and I've been making it well known, keeping some private, so in case we're in the same league totem, I can destroy you, which will happen. But no, it's been interesting to watch. It's freaking impossible to keep up, because it's literally 20 hours a day.
Right.
Contenders is on. It's like, oh, Australia is on. Oh, now next up Korean. Oh, then it's EU, and then it's NA, and you're just like, okay, I need to step away. Like, there's no possible way you can watch all this. So I'm concentrating on EU and NA. Those are the two where you're gonna get probably the players that you see get called up first, because I'm sorry, any of these Korean Overwatch contenders teams, they have to beat the awesome Korean players that are already in the Overwatch League, unless they get picked up by a brand new team, which is very possible. But I will say there are some things I like and I don't like about the contenders. I think the big thing is I hate the fact that, one, the teams aren't together.
Mm-hmm.
At least, and some of these, like, the British Hurricane, the Florida, the Gladiators, Mayhems, like, their teams might be together. I don't know. I don't know that much into it, but like, I was watching a match the other day where somebody just had internet problems and they had to pause, and then he couldn't get it back up in whatever time frame it was.
Like 5 minutes.
It's 5 minutes, and then they just go play down a person. Like, not cool. Like, I mean, I get why. It's just, with how big the Overwatch League is and how big Contenders is, I mean, it's not massive by any standards, but it's essentially the feeding zone for the Overwatch League. They should be able, these teams, especially ones that have Overwatch League teams up, like, that are part of their organization, they should have them in, like, their own home, or have, like, them stay there and work together, and then they can all play together and train together. Having all these people play, like, what was it? I forgot what match it was. And the big thing was it GG Esports Which
Yeah.
what team's Sugar Free on? Sugar Free's on Last Man
La-
Standing.
It's last night's leftovers.
Last night's. I got the last part right. But I think it was that match where every time Last Night got to pick a map, they would talk about, oh, they're going to choose East Coast time because one of their players is living in Europe and they can't have him play on West Coast ping. And I'm like, that should not be an issue in esports nowadays, like especially with something this big. So I think there's little things like that, but I think a lot of the play is as good as the Overwatch League because you get less. Overwatch League, when you see comps, it's very static. It's very much, okay, Widow versus Widow, Hanzo versus Hanzo, which will be coming up. You know, it's going to be like, okay, who runs the dive better? And then in contenders, you have people trying things out more. You have, you know, people switching to all, like, watch tonight. Teams just randomly just switch to like, okay, we're going to go old school dive just for one play to see if it works. And then if that didn't work, we're going to go back and switch off and do stuff like that. You don't see that all the time in Overwatch League, and I was seeing that on like every map.
Right. And we also
so
saw
that was really nice.
We also saw like triple DPS or double main support even.
I saw 4 tanks a couple times. And I'm just like, that's just not something you see in the Overwatch League. And I think it's a mixture of people don't want to give the advantage to the other team because you're playing with the best of the best. And it's one of those things where teams get set in their ways. And I think that's part of why like the gladiators are so loved, because they will randomly do just, okay, we're going to try and spawn camp them.
We'll have our Lucio on Tracer.
Yeah, we'll do random stuff like that, and it throws people off, and then they actually win. Like, and you see this in contenders all the time, but oh man, you can just see these players in contenders, and you know that the future of Overwatch League in 3 years is going to have just as good of, if not better, players than there are now. Just think, Sebaobi will be bad in 3 years in Overwatch League standards. League standards. Possibly, but he'll be too old. You know, he'll be above like 22.
I mean, to be fair, we have like a couple of 28 and 29-year-olds in the league. That is by far the farther end of it too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the future is in good hands. And if you've watched this, which I recommend all of you do, because you can't watch really contenders all that much when the Overwatch League is on, because it's not like you watch one and some of the other, but not really, because otherwise you'd be committing 7 days to it. And I can't do that.
Yeah,
so
when both are going on, I basically have to watch in 1.5 times speed on the VODs. That's the only way to do it.
Yep. So, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. And I like the announcers a lot in the contenders. So good on them.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into this week's Path to Pro news. So up first, let's travel a little bit to Korea and a certain team called Element Mystic, who has been one of the top tier Korean teams in the tier 2 scene for quite some time. And yeah, they are going to be without their star DPS player Sparkle, as he has been suspended for account selling. Now, Sparkle is not going to be included on the team's roster for this current season of Contenders Korea. And the suspension was issued after records showed that he had sold his account back in May of 2017. Now, last season in Contenders Korea, there was a pretty big upset that happened in the quarterfinals in the playoffs where Element Mystic, who had gone undefeated in group stage, lost to basically what was the Cinderella team, O2 Ardian, who would eventually make their way to the grand finals and then get crushed by XX Gaming. But like, nobody saw that coming at all. I know it shocked the hell out of me and a lot of other people, because that was one of the teams that looked primed to be Overwatch League ready at that time. So they're currently going to be opening up their season here against Seven, who is another one of the really good standouts from prior seasons of Open Division, who have also looked really dominant as well for Korea. And that will be on July 7th. So that is Saturday night. Obviously, tonight is Thursday when we record. But the important thing to note with this suspension is that this suspension did not come from Blizzard. This suspension came from the organization. So there's a very good chance that that means that they're still going to have Sparkle on that roster. He's just going to be inactive while he serves that suspension. But again, like, obviously, we've in the past talked about just account sell-in, account boost-in, and how the West kind of looks at that compared to the rest of the world. Because obviously, like, Korea takes esports very seriously, and any mark against reputation of these organizations or just the players as a whole is not taken too lightly.
No, you saw the hatred towards OGE when he got busted for this. So it's like already this guy, Sparkles, which just a very weird gamer tag name, but Sparkle he's going to be looked down on by his own team and other players for doing this. I mean, it's just, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of how he comes back from it. So it'll be interesting to see, because I have watched a couple of Element Mystic matches. I didn't follow the Korean scene too much last Korean Contender season, but I did hear of Element Mystic, and whenever I hear, oh, they sold their account, I'm just like, here's another one. This is basically going to be something that happens probably yearly. Someone is going to get suspended. It's like somebody in baseball getting suspended for steroid use.
Pretty much.
Like, it's just going to happen every season. Somebody did something 2 years ago, and it finally comes back to bite them in the ass. So.
Yeah, for the most part, though, it's been boosting in Korea, not so much like account selling.
Yeah, but is there really a difference?
Not really, no. Not in Korea's eyes. But
I mean, I don't think there's really, like, there's obviously a difference, but really, when you break it down, there is no difference. You're just boosting an account that you own for someone else.
Right. So someone else is still getting a huge benefactor from this. But, like, again, like, we've seen, like, kind of varying degree when it comes to suspensions, whether it was, like, 3 games for OGE, technically, because, he was already with the team, or he wasn't with the team, but, like, he was suspended for 4 games, and then, it was only, like, basically, like, 2 weeks, or you had, like, Sado suspended for, 3/4 of the season for the Overwatch League, and even lately, with Goats and some of their players getting banned for an entire season, so EM kind of took a similar approach in regards to Sparkle on this one. But shifting gears to NA, we do have an update on Seattle Skyfoxes, who, last week we talked about Karasuno. This was the runner-up in this past season of Open Division. They've been competing in a lot of the other major Tier 2 tournaments. And they basically rebranded to Seattle Skyfoxes, and, Ren and I were just absolutely in love with this redesign. It looks crisp, it looks professional, it looks Overwatch League level. And, just days before the start of Contenders NA, Seattle Skyfoxes decided to drop Seattle from their name. So they basically sent out an official statement over on their Twitter from their owner and GM, Justin Patry. And what's important to note about this is that there was really no explanation given for dropping the city name in this statement. So that's kind of caused a little bit of speculation going on amongst the community. So, there's 2 ways to look at this. Either one, this is a surefire sign that Seattle is going to get an expansion team in the Overwatch League. Or 2, maybe Blizzard just doesn't want teams to have city names in their team name, and if that is the case, like, the surefire sign of that would be if they also make a team like Toronto Esports rename, but that hasn't happened, so that kind of eliminates that. So is this a sign that Seattle's getting a team for Season 2?
I actually think it's a combination of what you said. So I think Blizzard is kind of making them get rid of the name of the city. The reason they're not doing with Toronto is Toronto's getting I think Toronto is getting a team. I really do. I think Toronto, and that's why they're not really pushing for Toronto Esports to not be called Toronto Esports, is because they will probably get bought up and made a Toronto team. Like, Toronto Esports will become the Toronto franchise. That's massive speculation, but I don't think Seattle, if they knew that they were going to be in Seattle, the Skyfoxes, in the Overwatch League, I don't think they'd make them change their name. And I mean, Chicago Skyfoxes sounds way better. So those of you who are listening now and don't listen to Heroes Never Die, me and Totem both live in or around Chicago, and a Chicago team will be happening for season 2. It has been mandated by us. So, yeah. But I mean, it's just one of those things where I could see Seattle getting one, but I think the West Coast is fairly well represented, and the Midwest has nothing. It really doesn't. And even, I mean, you have what? Boston? Yeah, the East and West Coast are pretty well represented. Like, you have 3 teams on each coast. And then you got 2 in Dallas. The Midwest and Canada have nothing. So, yeah, I think it's going to be more so a Toronto team over a Seattle team. And that's why they made the Skyfoxes get rid of the Seattle name.
Well, if they are going to sign Toronto Esports, they're going to have to be putting up a lot of money towards Boston Uprising, since that is their affiliate team. And they have match rights to all the player contracts, which is worth noting. So in other news, tonight, actually before the show, we got to see a new I'm not going to say like a new roster, because it's Envision Esports playing under the Team Envy banner. Envy, of course, being Envious, who are the Dallas Fuel affiliate team. So, this was a pretty big sign-in, and, they basically signed all of Envision Esports except for Jaru, who had, I don't know if they gave an exact reason. I think he had stepped away from Overwatch, or he was just inactive at the time. But Envy had signed Envision Esports players Buds, Crimzo, Fire, iShiny, and one of the players selected for the US Overwatch World Cup team in McGravy. And returning to Team Envy is one of the OG Pharahs of Overwatch in Tailspin. So Tailspin and Buds kind of like rekindling their past rosters in the past, because they've been on Envious in the past. And this now means that, Tailspin has been on every iteration of Envious, which is interesting. So, they kicked off their season tonight, before our show, and they won their series 3-1 against Skyfoxes. So, definitely go back to check that one out. It was pretty one-sided. Rialto was kind of a mess on both sides, because a lot of teams are having issues figuring out Rialto.
I honestly don't know if I've seen a completed Rialto yet. Like, a full-on, we got to the end Rialto. So, I mean, don't quote me on that, but it's looking interesting.
Well, it is a sniper's haven, and that might be why. And with the level of play with the Widowmakers and the Hanzos, we might never see a completed Rialto at this rate. But Envious has really been one of the staple Overwatch organizations since closed beta days. This is a team that won Contenders 2017 before they started putting the gear and season after Contenders, which I still don't understand why they did it that way. That's besides the point. They had won Apex Season 1. They took first in MLG Vegas back in 2016. And with this signing, that now means that 10 of the 12 Overwatch League teams now have an affiliate team in Contenders. So the odd teams out right now are the LA Valiant and the Seoul Dynasty. So all in all, we got our first look. Did you manage to catch the game before recording tonight?
I caught the last 2.5 matches. So I caught a good majority of it. Yeah. I'm actually upset that the Fuel signed them. Like I really am, because this was the perfect team to be signed to. If you wanted to sign an NA team to an Overwatch League, like a new Overwatch League team, this is the team roster you wanted. Like, this is the team you could pick up, the best one out there that you could still get that's not an affiliate. And now it's an affiliate. And you're like, man, I want to see this whole team. Like, I mean, you have Tailspin and Buds work great together. iShiny is, we'll talk about this, Team Canada. You have McGravy, Team USA. Like, you have Crimzo. I mean, like, this is overall is a very good team. Like, this is an Overwatch League worthy team. And now they're an Overwatch League affiliate team. Like, they're never going to all see the light of day together. Again, probably. Like, you're going to start seeing some of them on the Dallas Fuel, which I talked about yesterday, but you're never going to see Team Envy as they are right now once next season starts in Overwatch League. So I was kind of hoping that one team would pick it up that isn't an affiliate, but it's still nice to see them. They played really well. They dominated. They really just did. Like, it wasn't even close. I think Boostio on Skyfoxes was doing the best he could. I think at one point he killed Buds like 3 times in like a 2-minute span on the Widow versus Widow duel, and then they just res, and Boostio's like, what? I can't do anything else. He's like, I'm literally out sniping them and we can't move. So it was a good match. They're the team to watch, obviously, in any contenders, because they are the reigning champs, and they're playing really well together. And they have Arrow now kind of help coach them, because he's not needed in the Overwatch League. I mean, yes, he's working in the World Cup, but that's not for a while. I mean, all he did was announce a team. He can work with the affiliate team. So now they're getting the expertise of arguably one of the Coach of the Year candidates in the Overwatch League, even though he only coached for one stage. Like, he's in contention for that. And so, yeah, this was really good. What were your impressions of this match?
I honestly was not surprised by the results. I thought it was going to be a 4-0 just based off of how the first 3 maps had went. And really, like, Boostio really started to pop off when he started doing those Hanzo flanks. But, like, as you mentioned, like, he can only do so much. So Skyfoxes, they were definitely outclassed tonight. McGravy was coming in huge. Buds and Tailspin together are just a phenomenal 1-2 punch.
They're the Bash Brothers.
Pretty much, yeah. So Tailspin was either playing on the Tracer, or like Hanzo or Pharah. His Tracer looked okay at the start, and then he got better as the match went on. I know there were a couple of times where he really started to pressure the snipers on the opposite side. He was landing some 1-clips, and he would recall back to safety. So all in all, like, it's about what I expected, and we haven't seen peak Tailspin yet, and when that happens, I'm definitely going to be paying close attention to this team. So all in all, like, great start for Team Envy. And Skyfoxes, they still got some work to do. Hopefully Boostio can get a little bit more help from his other DPS on the team. But let's talk a little bit about the World Cup, because obviously, like, today was the deadline day for the rosters. And yesterday we got the reveal of Team USA. So we got the final 12 picks. So for our tank lineup, we have Muma, Space, and Super, all from the Overwatch League. And then we have McGravy from Team Envy for Path to Pro. For supports from Overwatch League, we have Sleepy, Moth, and Raucous. And then Elk is the sole support from Path to Pro. He's currently on, maybe a team that you guys have heard of, has, Fusion University.
That's a band shirt. Band shirt.
Banned. It's not banned from our show.
No, it's not.
And DPS-wise, we have 3 from the Overwatch League in Sinatra, Hydration, and Dante, and yeah, the sole, Path to Pro DPS is also, the one that's signed right here. Because Zachary is the Path to Pro DPS that we got. So all in all, like, this is a pretty good team. I definitely feel like Muma and Space will be the starting tanks. I can't imagine them not picking Sleepy and Elk, just knowing that Moth hasn't been terrible, but I haven't been as blown away by his play on the main stage as a main support, and Raucus has seen a pretty sharp decline on the Outlaws. So Sleepy and Elk, with Elk probably being the main shot caller for this team. And then DPS is interesting. Sinatra has to be a lock. He plays
He's a lock.
He'll play the Tracer primarily or the Zarya. You'll have Zachary playing the Widowmaker. And if we're talking about flexibility between Hydration and Dante, you would have to go with Hydration just because, he can do those off-meta picks. He can play Junkrat, which isn't off-meta, I know, but he can also bring in the Doomfist. Dante can basically play like Tracer and Sombra, who's completely buggy right now. And who knows what Sombra is going to look like when we get to the BlizzCon stage. But like even like right now, like we very, very rarely even see Sombra. So Dante, to me, is definitely the odd man out. But like looking at this team, like a lot of weight is going to be put on Zachary to perform. Because that's really been the biggest question mark, because during the LAN playoffs for contenders, he definitely didn't have as big of an impact as we have seen when it comes to him on online play. And, already we've seen him really stand out with the Widowmaker in contenders this season, just like he was last season. But, would I say he's the best DP or best Widowmaker NA out of Path to Pro? I think he's behind Buds. Like if they were specifically looking for a Widowmaker player, I'd prefer that they picked Buds. But Zachary has more flexibility, and I hope he can make the most of the opportunity, assuming he makes the final 7.
Yeah, I mean, I hope at least one Path to Pro player makes it. I think Zachary has the best chance. I mean, I don't think McGravy has a shot. Like, as nice as it is for him to be included, I don't think he has a shot. Zachary has probably the best shot. Elk, I agree with you that Elk is probably is deserving of making the final 7, but I have this sneaking suspicion they're going to go Sleepy and Raucus. I just have a sneaking suspicion.
Well, that's 2 flex supports, though.
I get that. It's just something that I can see happening. I don't know why. It's a gut feeling thing. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's useless because they could be playing Korea if they make the championship match. So like I would almost give Zachary the shot. Him and Sinatra being the 2 DPS. And then, like you said, Hydration probably gets an out over Dante, mainly because they don't want it to be like the San Francisco Shock versus the World.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work for the Outlaws. Probably won't work for the Shock.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, I mean, you want to say Sinatra's a lock, but is a Tracer specialist a lock? Like, in all honesty, in this meta nowadays, is a Tracer player, like, arguably, Sinatra's a great Tracer, but is a Tracer player a lock?
It's a lock for the sole purpose of trying to get redemption against Jonak. There is bad blood, okay? We need to get some redemption, and if it's not Sinatra, then Sleepy has to be the one to do it, because Sleepy is up for the challenge.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, you have to look at what's going to be the meta when the World Cup comes around. I mean, maybe Sombra changes come through and she's ridiculous. Then maybe you want Dante. I'm not saying she will be, but I'm saying there's a shot. Who knows what happens with with little Miley Cyrus over there. And what that occurs, like maybe you want to go 3 tanks. So like I think the only actual locks right now are gonna be Muma, Space, and Sleepy. Like I think those 3 are the only locks for me for the top 7. Because I would not be surprised if they kept any of the DPS. Like any combination of the 4, I would not be surprised about. I don't think Moth makes the team, and I don't think McGravy does. So, yeah, should be interesting. Go right. Second place.
I mean, this team is definitely top 4, but so much of this is going to go down to how the groups are going to be laid out.
Who plays South Korea round 1?
You're out. All right.
Sucks to be you.
So we got a couple of other announcements. So I'm not going to go over all of the names for Brazil, but Brazil announced their 12-man roster, which consists of primarily Brazil Gaming House, which has been basically like Team Brazil for the past 2 seasons. They also got a few players from Pain Gaming. Russia also announced their 12-man roster, which is a pretty big mix of Path to Pro talent. You have Zhao, Tonic, Unfix, and Layer, Ain, and Main, all from Path to Pro, being complemented by the DPS duo of Shadowburn and Mistakes from the Overwatch League. But, of course, since we talked about US, we gotta talk about another team that's going to be direct competition with us, that being America's Top Hat in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Who has a really good team.
They usually do. Okay, so tank line, we have XQC, Shane, Note from the Boston Uprising, and Kevin. That's actually a player that came out of Open Division. So that was very interesting that he actually made the final cut for this. Or, well, not final, but like the final 12 anyway. For supports, they have Bonnie from the Outlaws, Joe Meister from the Fusion, Crimzo from Team Envy, and Rolf from the Gladiators Legion. And then for DPS, they have Surefour from the Gladiators, Agilities from the Valiant, Mingachu from XL2, and Keller from GGEA, aka the Outlaws Academy. So, I have to say, like, there's a even split here. We got 5 from the Overwatch League, we got 5 from Path to Pro. We have 2 that are currently unsigned, but, one is former Overwatch League, one is former Path to Pro. So, I have to say, like, that really kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting it to be, kind of like right down the middle. Now, that being said, if I'm picking a top 7 or final 7, XQC is definitely going to be in. I can't imagine Canada without the T-Mobile MVP, and it's gotta be rigged again. Everyone's going to vote for XQC.
Jane already confirmed it's XQC and Note are the 2 main tanks.
Right. That's what I would have figured. So for supports, like, you have to give the nod to Crimzo for the flex support. Bonnie will probably be main support. And DPS, I think they just go Overwatch League here. They pick Surefour Agilities.
It's hard not to.
Right. Mangachu will be the nod over Keller for Path to Pro, but the thing that I laugh so hard at is the fact that in the damn graphic that they released, they spelled Agility's name wrong, and they spelled it Agilites, and I was like, okay, so that's what they call Agilities when he just doesn't show up, Because there's been plenty of times where Agilities, like, goes in, gets hyper-aggressive, and split. Just gets swatted.
and down goes Agila Light.
So that was a pretty good meme. So I definitely enjoyed that. But all in all, this is going to be a pretty good team. This is another team that's definitely going to be give US a run for their money. Obviously, like the major teams, like if we're kind of like going across the field, I'm not gonna like rank them from like 1 to 6 or whatever, but you figure like the top teams more than likely will be South Korea, United States, Canada,
Sweden,
Finland, Sweden, and
France.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think United Kingdom is going to be a better team than France this year.
That's a bold statement, Cotton.
No, they have a lot of talent in the UK from Path to Pro, and they'll step up. But all in all, like, realistically, South Korea, being the monster team that they are, no tryouts, just picking primarily NYXL, complemented by, Carpe. Yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle, but Canada is another team that we have to look out for. And, just looking at this lineup, no doubt in my mind, after, we talked about the group stage, that the US group, without question, NA and Canada are going to be the top two.
Yeah, no, there's no way. I mean, it'd be like a 16 seed over a 1 seed in the March Madness tournament, which actually happened for the first time.
One time.
Besides that, like it would be one of those kind of upsets.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just there's no way it's not happening. So and what's nice about this Team Canada, if I remember correctly, is fairly the same as what it was for last year. At least what it appears to be, right? Because I mean, it was Surefour, XQC, Banny were both on there. It wasn't Joe. I think Joe Meister.
They had Mangachu, Joe Meister, and Rolf.
So like they got a lot of the same people on it from last year, which is completely different than Team USA.
Right.
Which I don't know which one's better, but I think for Team USA, like Siegel has to say over and over again, he's like, I'm burnt out. I chose not to participate. I told them I didn't want to try out. Like, all right. And Team Canada's like, yep, let's go. So I think they just needed some new blood on Team USA. But man, Canada right now is probably my favorite to be second place. Depending on it, unless they play them in the first round against South Korea.
I think you're biased based on the colors on your shirt. Even though it's a China jersey, it's red and white.
And I mean, I live in Wisconsin, so I'm close to Canada. No?
I mean, they like to drink a lot of beer because they play a lot of hockey, and you're from Wisconsin, so...
And we like poutine?
Yeah.
No? All right. Enough with the Canadian jokes. Otherwise, they'll call the Mounties on me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm done now. I'm done.
You were supposed to say, sorry, boot that. And then move on.
Boot that.
Yeah, okay. So that being said, obviously, World Cup is coming up, as are the Overwatch League playoffs, and as per usual, we do have quite a bit of movement in the Path to Pro scene in regards to roster updates. So, Ed, why don't you let our listeners know what sort of shifts we are seeing from these teams?
Okay, so added Alpha to Element Mystic from Korea, added Alpha. Also, these first three are from Korea. So, Meta Bellum added Wonjae Lee. Meta Athena, it looks like, got rid of Luke B and Selly. And then in EU, the Copenhagen Flames got rid of Midnight, Chubbs, and Immortal. And then they added Nerfed and Graceful. And then, let's see here, Cree, I hope I pronounced Crew. Retired from Overwatch. So one of the original players played for Melty Esports Club, Misfits, Luminosity Gaming, most recently Eagle Gaming, and then Toronto Esports added Visility. Mm-hmm. So lots of changes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Copenhagen Flames basically lost 3 people in the span of like 2 days, and when that happened, I was just like, oh shit. Is this team gonna disband? Like, I was petrified that was gonna happen when I saw that.
What happened to him? Did they just quit, or?
I know Midnight had asked for his release. I'm not too sure about the other 2.
Because whenever you see something like that, it always strikes me as, okay, something internally happened.
Right. And they kind of got rolled in their season opener as well. And, when all these changes happen, it's really hard to picture there being like a drastic shift, kind of like mid-season. But, at least it's early on. Hopefully, with a couple more games under their belt, we can see a little bit more synergy coming in with their new sign-ins. But with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and focus on North America and Europe in regards to contenders coverage. We're not gonna cover like the games that happened tonight. Tonight's Wednesday because the other NA games happened tonight. But we did see 3 games. So we saw Fusion University open up the season. Last season's champions. They went up against Second Wind and they took that one 3-1. We saw GG Esports Academy defeat last night's Leftovers 3-1. And then Gladiators Legion defeated the new look Mayhem Academy, because that's a completely rebuilt roster outside of one person on the roster. That one ended 3-1. Alright, so we had GGEA going up against LNL, and that's a lot of letters back to back. And, there was something interesting that happened at the start of this, and that was the fact that Sharp and Sugar Free were both not in the first map. The 2-star DPS players in the game were not in, but we did open up on Legion Tower on Garden, so we saw Widow and Pharah coming out on both sides, and this is basically where Enlayer just takes over the game right from the get-go early on. He finds 2 picks really early on. LNL had that man advantage. They got the first capture, and just in that sequence alone, Enlayer found 5 kills. Just comes out of the gate absolutely swinging. And GGEA just comes in, goes straight to the point. They barrel over LNL, and LNL only got 36% before the flip happens. Trek was on the Pharah in this match, and he played way too passively, which allowed GGEA the opportunity to get back into the fight, and they maintain control, and eventually, Trek gets sniped out of the sky by Keller, and he manages to find Dino right after. So GGEA pretty much took it after Enlayer had, his little kill streak to start things off, and then, LNL couldn't wrestle the point back, so round 1 went 100-36, which brought us to Control Center, and Decad falls early, and Smurf basically comes in, hits a kind of sneaky shatter, which allows Dino, he goes into Transcendence, but it's wasted because it comes in after the fight was already lost. And we basically see, the Space Dragon combo come out, finding 3 kills for GGEA, who at that point are basically in firm control. And they take it all the way to 99% before LNL can flip the point. They too have their Space Dragon combo, which brings the contention up to 60%. But GGEA basically just pulls their ults, gets a team kill, finishes the map. So all in all, Legion Tower wasn't really close. But then we move to King's Row, right? And this is where Sugar Free comes into play. And if you want to talk about standout players that aren't of age yet to be competing in the Overwatch League, but you have to keep an eye out on, it is Sugar Free. So Ed, as someone that hasn't gotten to see these 15, 16-year-old prodigies, what were your thoughts on Sugar Free in this series?
Throw piles of money at this kid. Just throw screw Mr. 150K. This is the new 300K kid. It was ridiculous. I have not seen someone all right, now granted, GG Esports Academy won. It was now last night's Leftovers won King's Row map, but GG Esports Academy won overall. But Sugar Free, I have not seen someone come in and dominate that match as a sniper in a long time. He's a better Pine. He's that much of a game-changing Widowmaker. It was ridiculous. And then you saw him switch it up. You saw him play other characters. So it's not he's just one trick. He was basically God, it's just hard to put into words without actually watching it. But I would want this kid on any team in the Overwatch League today, being an underage minor, and he would be in my starting 6 every match. Maybe not over people like Libero or Sebeobi, but if you're talking for teams I don't know, the Dallas Fuel could even use him. I'd probably pick him over Linkser. I mean, I probably would. Uh, it's just he's just that good. And as soon as I even put it in our staff lounge. As soon as
Hmm.
like I was watching it, I'm like, what's up with this kid? Like, he's amazing. So he he's just one of those. Keep an eye on him. He's gonna be that good.
Yeah, because I know on like King's Row, he basically came out with the Genji, and just on the first like fight alone, he already had like 80% towards his Dragon Blade. So LNL just like quickly took the first point. You know,
Yeah,
he basically at any time that you would see Sugar Free like in the kill feed, it would be followed by 2, 3 kills, and it's super consistent too. I mean, there are a few times where like some get like most Genjis really when they draw the blade, that's basically a sign that you're going to die immediately, because that does tend to happen. But
I mean, I will say this: he does get his blade in like 0.05 AKM. Like
right.
he was getting his blade so much. So yeah,
So yeah, I mean this kid plays Hanzo too. We saw quite a bit of Hanzo on Kane's Row, basically clearing the payload with the dragon.
yeah.
And
I was mistaken, by the way. I kept saying Widow. It wasn't Widow. It was Hanzo. So forgive me for that. I just had Widow on the mind.
I mean, there is a ton of Widow play, and Bleffins has probably messaged me about playing Rum Royale. I'm podcasting. Jeez, this
Quiet,
man.
Blevins. Stop it.
But yeah, there was at one point towards the end of Kane's Row where Sugar Free basically just pops off. He finds 2 kills, and then he shoots the dragon. And the dragon just consumes 2 more, bringing GGEA to a grim demise. But we would go to Temple of Anubis, right? And this is where man, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think like what I would say is the highlight of this. Early on, Sugar Free, he was on the Genji. They were run and dive. He got a ton of value out of like early deflects. They ended up LNL ended up getting like 2 ticks on a first point before GGEA were able to actually drop down from the high ground. So kind of like giving up percentages for free. And they get the first point. LNL have 6 minutes left to complete the map. And GGA starts to actually pressure Sugar Free in this case. He gets taken out early, but they just basically just get pushed back to spawn. LNL gets split off by the dragon. Smurf starts to really pressure Sugar Free in here, and then you see Color come in with a 2K on the Brigitte, and LNL just kind of like gets halted, right? They can't really make the progress. Gray comes in with a pretty good transcendence in regards to the timing of that, which keeps GGEA in the fight. So at this point, there's like 2 minutes left, and Layer ends up swapping over to the Pharah. And LNL finally starts to see some progress when Decod comes in with the Earthshatter. He knocks down 3 players, and they basically just keep GGEA off the points with the Graviton. Smurf kind of tries to come in and, he pops his Primal Rage. He's trying to juggle LNL around the point. Doesn't really happen all that much. But, like, all in all, like, this one is just, like, I feel like, obviously, like, the major takeaway from this game is the fact that there was a DC issue, right? And then that changed basically the momentum of this series. Like, LNL was looking pretty good, but Decod DC'd, he didn't come back. LNL was forced to play a 5v6, and yes, they were able to, on their defense, find a few picks by investing quite a bit of ultimates, but you're still at an odd man disadvantage without anything even happening, so well, I guess you can, like, blow through all of your ultimates, well, then you're just going into the next fight, not only at an odd man situation to begin with, just because you are a man down, but you also don't have the ult economy to really hang on, and, we kind of saw Dogman try to stall things with the Mei pretty late on point B, but, GGEA just take it because of the 6v5 situation there, and, it was so, like, I understand that there's rules in place, but it's very discouraging in that sense, because knowing that it's 6v5, there can only be one outcome. And that takes mental effect on the players after that happened, because Route 66 was kind of hard to watch given the fact that, we didn't really see a lot of progress on that map.
Mm-mm. And this was the map where I was just like, you just hate to see it. You hate to see it because, I mean, last night's Leftovers, or LNL, was, like you said, pushing hard. And they were giving GGEA a run for their money. They really were. And then all the wind got knocked out of them. And there's just nothing they can do about it. And this is the kind of thing where if they were all playing on LAN, then it wouldn't be an issue. Like, I mean, it in theory could still be an issue, but probably not. But yeah, no, Dogman tried his best, just couldn't do it. I do like the last night's Leftovers. They're a team to watch. They're a team that easily could be picked up by an affiliate, like by the LA. Like I could see the LA Valiant picking up last night's Leftovers as an affiliate team, because that's what you have to look out for now. I mean, so yeah, it was troubling, but it was fun to watch. It really was. You get into it a little more in Contenders than you do with the Overwatch League, because a lot of time in the Overwatch League, maps are a little bit more predictable.
Mm-hmm.
In Contenders, it's not, unless it's Fusion University, who just, yeah, they're up here. They're the Korea of Contenders. NA. Just an NA.
Well, we did close out this series on Route 66, which we actually saw some Sombra play from GGEA as they opted to run solo support. Gray was on the Sombra, and they converted off of the EMP. They dropped Sugar Free, no surprise, being the focus fire yet again on this map after he's kind of taken control of some of the other maps. But it is also off with the play of Sugar Free, where LNL starts to turn things around. But, Fisher kind of kills him from the outside with the Hanzo and the Storm arrows. So, LNL basically, brought down to 45 seconds left on their attack. GGEA have 4 ultimates at the ready, and Gray basically gets spotted out, but he does manage to still get the EMP out in time. But no kills come through for GGEA until Vol and Keller come in, finding the cleanup after the EMP was already worn off. And Gray basically just hacks a Mercy, and Sugar Free draws the Dragon Blade. He does end up finding 2, but at that point, LNL's backline fell apart, and they get full held. So LNL on the defense now, they can't really give up a lot of room, so what do? They hide underneath the train, and they just kind of get barreled over.
They went for cheeky shenanigans, and cheeky
at
shenanigans
that point you have
did
to.
not work.
Yeah, at that point you have to make them fight for every inch, and basically one pick, and it's pretty much GG, and that was definitely the case. Dogman basically got caught out of position too, which didn't help, and he got punished for it, and it was just an easy stroll to that yellow rectangle to victory for GGEA as they take the series 3-1. So, we don't really get to see a ton of Sombra. In past Sombra metas, we kind of saw, attackers go to, Mei to wall them off from that first, hack point for the health pack on the left-hand side in that little caveway. But, Mei doesn't really see a ton of play, which she probably won't until the fall-off damage from her alternate fire comes into play. And then we'll get Sniper Mei back in full force, which...
Triple Sniper. Mei Hanzo Widow.
It could happen. But all in all, I wish that DC didn't happen, because I have a feeling like if that didn't happen, this one probably would have went to 5 maps.
Yeah, it probably would have. Yes, they lost. LNL lost 3-1, but it was and it's so cliche. It was a close 3-1. It sounds so cheesy and cliche, but it really was. It was a lot closer than the 3-1 actually shows. Oh man, I really wish they would have been able to go to map 5.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been nice.
All right, well, let's go ahead and look at what happened in Contenders EU. So, Ed, why don't you let everyone know what match results we saw in this one? Because there were some interesting results, especially a pretty big upset, especially in the season opener for EU.
Yep. So, Young and the Beautiful defeated the British Hurricane 3-1. Great match, by the way. Angry Titans defeated Orclus and Hungary 4-0. Snakes defeated Bazooka Puppies 3-1. CIS Hope defeated Copenhagen Flames 4-0, followed by getting rid of 3 players. Team Giganti defeated Eagle Gaming 3-1, and 1 point defeated We Have Org 3-1. I don't know. I didn't watch every game. The 1 point and We Have Org was interesting because I think 1 point was one of those. We just kind of came out of nowhere, and we won our first Contenders EU match. If I'm not mistaken, it was either 1 point or We Have Org that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, both of them kind of recently surfaced in Contenders, but really, like, that Young and Beautiful match, just no one expected that result. I remember they pulled it with, like, the Twitterverse, and it was like, was it like 74% in favor of Hurricane? It was something like that. So, but it was basically like 3-1 in favor of the Hurricane, which also ended up being the score of the actual series, just in favor of Young and Beautiful. But first, I want to talk about that Team Giganti versus Eagle Gaming match, because Eagle Gaming was kind of one of those middle-of-the-pack EU teams last season in Contenders EU. And we saw them kind of like start to turn things around when we were kind of in that 303 meta, and this was a team that liked to run tank heavy. So they started to kind of not really show a different look, but they had better results from it since that was more in their zone. And, you know, Giganti came in, they signed Shatter2K, who has been a long-time standout player, one of the better projectile players in the game, and he did not disappoint in this series. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what went down in that one, and then we will circle back to Young and Beautiful going up against British Hurricane. So for Giganti and Eagle Gaming, we opened up on Oasis over on Gardens, and Giganti, they came out with the 303. And seeing this, Eagle Gaming just opted to immediately swap to a 303 of their own. So, you know, we kind of got, you know, a mirror match going on, really not too surprising. Davin opened things up with the pick over on Superpluke, and Giganti ended up securing the first point. And already after one fight, Giganti had 4 ultimates in their bank. So that just shows you, like, how potent and how fast you can earn those ultimates winning that fight in such a beefy composition. And Eagle do manage to win the next engage off the back of an Earthshatter from Superpluke. So now flipping a point at 58%. And Superpluke has another Shatter for the next fight, but actually gets stunned out of it. Hardest goes to Graviton, but Eagle Gaming have no follow-through with it, so that was kind of iffy. And then Little Bow also comes in, drops a late sound barrier. You know, it gets a little bit of percentage, like 10% for Eagle Gaming, but, like, was it really worth it? Probably not. And Giganti end up flipping the point back. And, of course, you know, with Divas and Zarya's in play on both sides, we saw a lot of self-destruct Graviton combos. On RCK and Davin hit their Wombo combo to secure the first round for Giganti. This brought us over to City Center, where LH Cloudy finds an early D-suit over on Nico, but Leaf answers right back, sniping Reaper and getting the D-suit on RCK. Little Bow goes Battle Mercy, finding Shatter2K, but that wasn't until Shatter2K had already found 2 picks, but Giganti were able to secure the first capture after a very long fight. It was like 2-3 minutes into that round until we actually had someone take control. We saw RCK basically like launch his self-destruct over at Hardest Farah. and he wasn't able to concuss out of the way, so he still got caught kind of in dead space there. And Eagle Gaming eventually managed to flip the point at 94% after a very clean executed dive. But really, it's just one more fight for Giganti at that point, and their tank line pops off with their ultimates. They find 3, get control, and the map win. Which basically, like, really no surprise there. We saw a lot of 303 coming out. We saw Eagle Gaming run quad tank. We got to see quite a bit of Hanzo from Shatter 2K, which was nice to see, because he really wasn't known for that. I'm trying to think of, like, what else we saw. It was a lot of tanks in this series, and that's kind of like the case for EU as a whole, because I know, like, CS Hope is another team that is pretty prominent in that. But really, at the end of the day, we saw Shatter 2K make an immediate impact on a new team, which was great to see. And Giganti basically just bullied Eagle Gaming at their own comp, basically. Like, they out-tanked Eagle Gaming with their bread and butter. And, like, it really makes you question, well, Eagle Gaming, they have one of the larger rosters out there, or at least they have. Obviously, we have a smaller number for this current season, only having an 8-man roster. But if they're not able to succeed in what they're known for, then they're going to be in for a pretty long season. Because they're already seeing Giganti playing better at their own game. And CS Hope is another team that is very prominent in this 303 lineup as well. So Eagle Gaming needs to have something else to kind of like fall back on. And I don't think that they have found that quite yet.
No, they haven't. I mean, yeah, the 3-3 is so prevalent. It is just so prevalent, and like you said, Eagle Gaming just isn't there. They're just not. I mean, I only caught clips of this match, because, like I said earlier, there's no way you can watch every match, especially in like a 3-day span, to catch all of this. But I mean, if there's one thing I've learned, is that the GOATS comp, even though GOATS aren't around, the GOATS comp is so prevalent. Even quad, like you said, they pulled out a quad tank too. Like, even that is just so prevalent. It's gone are the days of, like, when we all thought, they're like, oh, we could pull off a 1-tank strat. And then it's like, no, we're going the other way. Like when Baguette first came out, they're like, oh, you could run like a Reinhardt and Baguette and 2 support, and then that can be your team. And they're like, well, hold my beer. We're going to get 3 more tanks on top of it, so you can deal with that. So, like, yeah, it's just Eagle Gaming needs to step it up. They didn't have an easy map this week, or easy match up this week. But, yeah. Eagle Gaming is a fairly big name. Like, they have been a fairly big name in the esports in EU. So, yeah, they should pick it up. I think they will.
Yeah,
have to work together.
I think my favorite part about this entire series was Maza on the Lucio. He boops Super Fluke off of the map, and it was I think it was on Volskaya where this happens. On the first point. And then he ends up finding 3 more picks right after that on a Lucio. Like, he was bloodthirsty, and I love seeing that because we don't really see that from Lucio. It's usually always a Zenyatta doing that. And that really opens things up for Giganti to take that map as well. And it was on Rialto, again, like, kind of like the wild card map. We saw it again in this series. Eagle Gaming went with the quad tank strat, and then Giganti ran 2 main supports on their defense. They had Moira paired with a Mercy, which was kind of interesting. That's not really something we see a whole lot. Kind of like also like running Ana with Zenyatta, which is another thing that we don't see a whole lot. But we got to see Shatter even on like a little bit of Tracer on Rialto too. So we got to see multiple looks from Shatter 2K, which is great to see. This is going to be the flex DPS for Gigante, and you know, it's still like crazy to me that we had Gigante at one point who were the best team in EU. Pretty much everyone on that team outside of Davin got picked up by the Overwatch League. They basically absorb another Finnish team in ENCE Esports, and they haven't missed a beat. And now they signed Shatter 2K, and now they're even better than they were last season. And you know, I feel like they are definitely primed to make a deep run in the playoffs this season. Again, like I really feel like they will give Hurricane a run for their money this season, and you know, who knows? Maybe we are looking at the EU champs.
I mean, you really could be. I mean, because you obviously, as we'll talk about next, British Hurricane are beatable.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not as clear cut as like the NA with Fusion University. It's like Fusion University and everyone else. And we thought the British Hurricane was the top team, but now it's like they're showing cracks in the armor, obviously, and you know things are just not going in the Hurricane's way. And so you know teams like Gigante, I mean even Eagle Gaming, Young and the Beautiful, I mean Orglis and Hungry, Angry Titans, these teams all have shots now. And yeah, they're definitely with Shatter. Yeah. Shatter was a nice pick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about that Young and Beautiful versus British Hurricane game before we close things out. So I know you're taking lead on this one, but for me, like, the sniper duo on Young and Beautiful absolutely made this match for them. Like, they were getting the best of the Hurricane throughout the series. But what did you take away from this upset? Because it was an upset by every stretch of the imagination, just because Young and Beautiful had been one of the more bottom barrel teams out of EU last season.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Like, well, for starters, when you type in Young and Beautifuls versus British Hurricane contenders, the first like 10 websites are all gambling because you like the odds were in British's favor so much. Like that's all they were talking about. But so what it comes down to is, like you said, the snipers with Nesh. Nesh on the Hurricane was doing amazing. And the rest of the team was not. Like, I believe it's, yeah, I'm still learning all the names of people on the contender. So Nesh was the Widowmaker for the Hurricane, yes. At some point, Young and Beautiful, because the DPS duo of Dids and Math were going off. But Young and the Beautiful realized that Nesh was the only one doing anything. Like the British Hurricane just did not look good outside of Nesh. So they realized that if they could just dive Nesh, the team was crumbling around it. And that's what Young and Beautifuls were doing. It was like that, what happened? Was it the Boston Uprising when they played the New York Excelsior? And they just were like, we're just going to dive bomb Jonak the whole time and beat them that way by just doing something they're just not used to seeing. And that is what Young and Beautiful did. Like after the first round, when they played Lijiang Tower, they lost map 1 and map 2. You know, things were not looking great. And then they switch everything up. They go to King's Row. They know Nesh is going to be on that sniper again because it's a sniper paradise. They just dive them. And they take it, and they take that map. And not only do they take it with style. Like 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Like time remaining to 0 for the British Hurricane. Like that wasn't just like, oh, we just barely. No, you beat them. You beat them pretty well. Like, so it's one of those things where they found the weakness in the Hurricane, and the Hurricane are going to make adjustments so it doesn't happen again. as all good teams will probably do. I mean, the next time I don't know offhand who the Hurricane are playing next, but I can guarantee you that they're not going to let them dive the Widowmaker like they did in this match, and it just surprised them. I mean, you go to Volskaya, you know, that was another one. That was another beat down on that one. You know what I mean? Like Route 66 was much closer, but it's just it's hard to put into like Ben Best was fraggy aggressive a lot of the time for the Young and the Beautiful. Like he was going in, and you're just like, ooh, why is he going in? Okay, all right, it's working. But then you go back and you look at the overall game, and that was very coordinated. It didn't look coordinated while they were doing it, and then you go back and look, and you're like, oh, this is why they're way better than me. Like they make it look like it's not coordinated, but really they have a master plan all along. So Young and the Beautiful looked good. I don't think they're here to stay. Nothing about that team like popped out to me like, okay, they're like the new top. They're the surprise team of this season. Nothing like they're beatable. They're very easily beatable. They just found a weak point in the British Hurricane, exploited it, and the Hurricane will bounce back from it. But it was a great match, and like everyone was just shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was just shocked. Like, you know, who like the British win map 1, then lose the next 3. Like, that's just insane. So, you know, who knows? It's the British Hurricane. Their bench is probably better than the Young and the Beautiful. That's kind of the MO for, you know, any Spitfire and Spitfire related team. So yeah, I will be interested to see what the British Hurricane do next.
Yeah, you know, we saw kind of an interesting defensive comp on Route 66 from the Hurricane, which was basically solo tank. They had Orisa. They opted to run triple support. They kept the double sniper, and they were kind of going up against the Young and Beautiful double sniper dive. And you know, Hurricane, you know, start off pretty good. You know, they find 3 picks, and you know, side note, like I was looking at the VODs on the Twitch, and they didn't actually have this map in the VODs on a Contenders website. The only one I could find was like the French cast, like over on YouTube. So they need to make sure they get everything up for Contenders. So yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, that was the only thing missing out of like everything that I saw. But like one of the stand-up players for me from Young and Beautiful was Exoreth. There's Zenyatta. Like this kid was fragging out. There were quite a few times where he would end up finding both of the Hurricane tanks. And you know, Half-a-Cool just like there were times where, you know, his self-destructs would be absolute money, but like whenever he was playing like Brigitte, like it just he wasn't really having like the biggest impact outside of like if Math was trying to draw a Dragon Blade. That was really like the only time I saw Half-a-Cool really step up on the Brigitte all in all. But really the biggest difference I feel like in this series was the counter dive coming out from Young and Beautiful. Anytime that Hurricane would get a pick, they would just counter dive and find 2, and it was just a constant uphill battle for the Hurricane. So really, like it's way too early to be like, okay, Young and Beautiful is definitely going to be like a standout team. No, this is going to be probably still either bottom of the barrel or maybe middle of the pack team, but you know, the Hurricane should be able to bounce back, but EU has always been kind of like that region where we really don't know where the pieces are going to fall into place. There have been occasions where we felt really strong about teams in the current meta, only to kind of fall at the wayside like CIS hoped it last season, because that was the team that Ren and I were hoping would take it, and then, you know, Hurricane kind of came in and flexed their flexibility with their team comps and ended up taking it all in all. But I'm going on record now, like I'm sticking with Giganti for EU this season. I feel like that'll be the team to beat. Shatter 2K is going to make a big impact. He'll probably get picked up for Season 2 of the Overwatch League.
By Chicago? Every good contenders player
We'll just go to Chicago.
Team is going to the Chicago, whatever their team name is.
We'll buy everyone out. That's the plan.
I mean, honestly, they just need to go buy Zachary, because he's being held back by the MVP of the league or number 2 player in the league.
I mean, like, is he really going to see playtime if he's like having to compete with Carpe?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, maybe a team could swoop in and sign him, and maybe that team is based in Chicago. Just saying.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're kind of at that point. Let's go ahead and close things out for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best ways to do that is to leave us a positive review over on iTunes. Any sort of feedback is always welcomed. We're always looking for ways to improve the show, as well as our other network shows. Be sure to go on our website for Overwatch Recall, which is our podcast directory / weekly episodic listens of all of the Overwatch content. And I did reach out to a podcast in regards to our first Overwatch Recall interview, so I'm waiting to hear back from them. So I'll have more details on that soon. But Ed, why don't you go ahead and let our listeners know where they can go ahead and reach this podcast?
All right. Well, you can reach us on email at contact@owlnshow.com. You can reach us on Twitch and watch us on Twitch, which you should be doing right now. We are Twitch affiliates, so you can support the show by subscribing to our Twitch channel and unlock our network emoticon. So thanks again to everyone who have been watching the shows live. If you do like to catch us, we are live 3 nights a week minimum. So on Mondays, we have the Overwatch League Network. That's at 7 p.m. Pacific. On Wednesdays, we have Heroes Never Die, which is the other show me and Totem do. That is at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then this show, The Backcap, is at Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific. And then the host streams, like Spider will sometimes stream Fridays. Totems will sometimes stream Saturdays. That's at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, and all that fun stuff. We are on YouTube under the Overwatch League Network. We're getting close to our custom URL. If you could help out by subscribing to our channel, we greatly appreciate it. All our podcast episodes, top plays, and other videos can be found there. Soon to come, Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Spider said he had 2 videos for Hammond on the way.
They nerfed him today.
Did they?
Yes. They nerfed the speed of his swing from 22 to 20. And I'm like, that's not a very big nerf. So
how can we equate that into the actual movement? We'll talk about that on Wednesday. But if you want to get a hold of us over on the social media, you can find Ren, who, as I mentioned last week, he's currently taking a step back. He's doing training for a new job opportunity. He's still part of our podcast family. So if you want to find Ren, you can get a hold of him over on Twitter at PrimalRen. I don't know if he's going to be streaming a whole lot, but you can also find him on Twitch at twitch.tv/PrimalRen. And Ed, where can our listeners get a hold of you over on the social media?
You can reach me on Twitter at @AdinarOverwatch, and you can watch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/AdinarOW, where I stream everything from Overwatch to World of Warcraft lately. I'm getting ready for the new expansion. I'm giving it a shot.
I'm not. I don't have the time.
I gotta know what these stand-up trolls are. I'm very intrigued by this. So I stream all that fun sort of stuff. No set schedule. It's just if I can, I can. If I can't, I can't.
Right. And as for myself, you can find me over on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR. And if I am live on Twitch, it is not at my main Twitch channel. It is on this channel, which is technically now my main one because I'm not on the other one. 3-4 nights a week, obviously for all the podcasts. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and get the heck out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and thank you for listening. And we will see you back on Monday for our flagship show, Overwatch League Network. Guys, have a good night. Thank you for listening to Overwatch League Network, the Backcap. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at OWLN Show. Engage with the community on Discord at discord.me/OWLN Show. and join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night over on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLN show.